Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome back to another video. And in today's video, I'm going to be covering the brand new Imaginarium Theater reset that just came out in version Luna 2 of Genshin Impact. In this video, I'll be covering the enemies, strategies, tips, and tricks to help you get through, and regardless of the difficulty that you do, I think it'll help you guys. Before I get into the guide portion, I did want to mention that Imaginarium Theater did have a slight update. It's very small. It was data mined, and not a lot of people are talking about it for some reason, but it is a good update. And it's something that I think should be getting talked about. And it's that they lowered the pool of enemies to choose from. So theoretically, it should be easier to get the exact enemies that you want to fight, and it will make your runs easier overall. So with that being said, let's get into the actual guide portion. So I recommend doing this for every Imaginarium Theater that you do. But before entering the mode, you can preview all of the hardest fights, alright? All 4 bosses and the 2 Lunar challenges. Looking at them and knowing what enemies you're going to be fighting will help you a lot and will help you plan out your run better. Also, before entering the run, making sure your gear is on the right characters is super important. Making sure you have the right weapons on your characters. I've had to reset so many Imaginarium Theater runs in my time playing this game, just because I didn't have the right weapons or artifacts on my characters. So it's just something to double check before you go in, and this should go without saying, but if your friend has a C6 unit, you should really use that unit. It can help a lot, especially on some of the harder stages. So starting out the run, you get Cyno, Farina, Auroron, Barbara, Alhaitham, and Yao Yao for free as the opening characters. And if you don't have them, you'll get free versions of them. Although keep in mind, the builds are a lot worse. If you're using the trial Cyno like I am, I highly recommend getting rid of him as early as possible because the build on the Cyno is really bad. There's also special guest stars this theater reset: Zhongli, Arlecchino, Diona, and Lynette, and using these characters will benefit you a lot in this run. This should go as the #1 tip out of all of them. But the #1 mistake that people make in Imaginarium Theater is not upgrading their brilliant blessings. So make sure when you're going through the Imaginarium Theater that you're upgrading these as much as possible. These blessings allow you to do more damage, and more damage means you clear faster. So what's not to like about that? Before showcasing my own run, there is something that I want to say here. I mainly want to talk about the units that I used. I have the C6 Arlecchino, C6 Farina, C2 Nefer, and C2 Lauma. But for the sake of this video, I'm not going to be using any of them, and I instead opted in for the trial version of Farina. The other ones I'm just not using at all. And with all that being said, let's get into the run. So taking a look at the Act 1 enemies, personally I highly recommend going with the Fatui enemies here. They go down pretty easy, they're not very tanky at all, and if you didn't get a Shielder as your first pick, it's possible you can get frozen every now and then, or staggered. But either way, I think it's pretty easy, not a lot of effort here. I highly recommend using Cyno as the first character here as well. We really want to try to get rid of him, especially if he's the trial version. The trial version of Cyno is really bad. So just using him as early as you can will benefit you a lot later on, because you don't want to have him as one of your Electro DPS options later on. That'll just brick your entire run. And as you can see, I got through these guys pretty easily. Act 2 is pretty much the same thing in terms of difficulty. In terms of what fight to pick for this one, I highly recommend the Tatankasaur fight here. They're not very tanky and they go down pretty nicely. Something to be really aware about, especially on the first wave of this one with the Dinosaur Tatankasaur dudes, is that if you are not close enough to them, they will run away and then cause a huge time loss. So just making sure you're positioning yourself properly in their range, at least within melee range of all of them, will help your time significantly. The second wave of enemies is just 2 Natlan human mobs, and they go down super easily. As you can see here, I'm using the trial Cyno yet again for this one with just Baiju and Yaimiko, and I managed to take it down really easily. In Act 3, we get our first boss enemy, the Magu Kenki, and this guy can be pretty annoying to deal with. He likes to teleport around a lot, and he also has an invulnerability phase at the beginning. So try to not start using your abilities right away because of this invulnerability phase. Now, when it came to my clear of this guy, I was honestly struggling because I didn't have the ideal units to take this guy on. A really good character to use here would be Arlecchino if you get her early. Taking on this boss enemy with her would just be a breeze. The characters I had here are what I'm showing on the screen, and honestly, I couldn't really figure out a good team comp because I definitely wanted to save Alhaitham for later. Everything kind of went wrong when he teleported back to the middle right here, and I definitely should have waited to use Sara's ult until I went back to the middle, because I ended up wasting a lot of time here by getting staggered. Overall in this fight, I ended up making a lot of mistakes that just cost me a lot of time, especially like the parts where I'm getting staggered right here. Like, this was pretty bad overall. It just cost me so much time, and just using my abilities in the wrong place. You can definitely perform way more optimally on this with the same characters. But we still managed to clear him with some extra time left. After Act 3, the first Lunar challenge appears. I found this one to be pretty easy this time around. As long as you have some characters with some AoE capability and have been buffing up your reactions, this shouldn't be too bad. Just something to keep in mind with this one is that you desperately want at least one healer because you lose health over time. Your characters can die here. I went in with my C1 Yelan, Anefa, the Trial Farina, and Yao Yao, and I was able to honestly pretty easily take this one out. Like, I didn't really have many issues. The previous Imaginarium Theater, like the one prior to this one, this battle was a lot more difficult. I ended up having to use Nouvelette on this one. Another thing to keep in mind about these guys is that they do periodically put up a Pyro Shield. I don't think it really happened in this fight here, but just something to keep in mind. So Hydro units will help quite a bit. Fortunately, I didn't really run into any annoying gimmicks with these guys. They're pretty straightforward. And as you can see here, 15 out of 17 of the enemies are dead with a whopping 1 whole minute left, and the last one goes down right here, and we have that star. And it was not bad at all. Like, we had a very generous amount of time left. Next up, Act 4 is by far the easiest challenge in the entire run, and I highly recommend just choosing the challenge with the Ruin Guard every time. The slimes that spawn with it are really easy to kill, and there's really no time limit. You just need to protect the monolith in the middle and just make sure it survives by the time the clock hits 0. So using characters that have taunts built into their kit can really help you. In my run here, I used Mona to fulfill that role, as well as Auroron, just keeping the enemies very distracted. And as you can see, at 2 minutes in, they still have not touched the monolith even once. It's still at 100%. I believe it does take damage, but like either way, like it's not like I had a severe challenge here when it came to like keeping the monolith at, you know, good HP, and all of the mobs were going down really quick. Act 5, another really easy one. The Ruin Guard challenge, again, is just super easy. These guys go down really quick compared to other enemies, and you have tons of time to take them down. So really any decent DPS can take them down. I ended up using Alhaitham here with a more Hyperbloom oriented team, and I definitely could have used better units, but after rewatching this gameplay, I definitely realized I could have played this one a lot better just by like actually using my right click key or the shift key, whatever the dodge key is. They really like to use this like clap ability, and it's usually like alternating, and they'll do it one after the other. It's like very like staggered in how it comes in. Like one will do it, and then the next will clap at you, and then you'll be staggered. You know what I mean? Just knowing that, keeping that in mind, and playing properly. A shield character will actually really help you on this one. Like, just if you have Diona or Zhongli, just slot them in here, and it'll feel pretty good. Even though I was constantly getting staggered, we managed to finish this one in about 1 minute. Not bad at all, and we got that star. That's all that matters. For the next act, Act 6, we have the Bishop. Super easy. The only thing you need for this guy is Dendro and Sustain, and that's all you should need at all for this guy. As long as you have something to tank his insane damage output, you should easily clear this guy. He really puts up no fight. You'll see right here when he puts up his shield again that I break it in about 4 to 5 seconds-ish, and then in about 2 seconds after, he's basically completely dead. Like, this guy is super easily killable. I kind of question whether or not this should have been considered a boss enemy, because just look at how fast this guy goes down. If you have Nefer or Lauma, this should honestly feel even easier to do. Act 7, so there's 2 options here. Both are easy depending on your available units. If you have a Varesa, I highly recommend going for that Weasel enemy. And if not, I recommend the Lectors as long as you have a Hydro unit or two. For the Weasel, you mainly just need plunge damage, and for the Lectors or Heralds, I honestly don't know which ones they are. I'm pretty sure they're Lectors, but you just need a Hydro application to break their shields. I ended up using a Clorinde team here with Xingqiu. I definitely wish I had used another Hydro unit, but I don't think I had one available at the time. So I went with a double Electro team instead to hopefully break that shield a little bit quicker. And as you can see, I was just really struggling with energy here. This was mostly because I couldn't proc Favonius or Sacrificial Swords, so I just had no energy at all. Honestly, my gameplay on these guys was just absolutely terrible. I have no idea what I was doing. I think I was just like autopiloting at some point just to get through these guys. Regardless, we still finish with a very generous 25 seconds remaining. At Act 8, the second Lunar challenge appears. And this one is really easy as long as you have a DPS unit. In my run, I chose to come back to this one later. The Act 8 boss is Knuckle Duckle, and to kill this guy, you mainly need Electro and Hydro units. Unfortunately, the team comp I put together here was just really unoptimal, and having a Kaching here as like a secondary DPS unit was not something I was expecting for the run. But sometimes it's kind of what you have to do to get through theater. You have to use teams that really don't optimally work together just because you don't really have any other options. Anyways, the Knuckle Duckle is seriously annoying. We managed to take down his little minion guys and stagger him. I highly recommend buffing electro-charged reactions just for this guy alone. And at this point, one of the things you really need to keep in mind, especially after going into Act 9 and beyond, is that you need at least one Hydro unit for the final boss. So you need to save a Hydro unit. So save a character like Xingqiu, Yelan, Aino, Farina, or you can even use a Hydro main DPS character. Ayato will work. Just make sure you have some type of Hydro unit, right? At this point in the run, I decided I had the units necessary to take on the last Lunar challenge. So I did it here with a Nihida Hyperbloom team, with Nihida, Aino, Raiden on an EM set, and then Xingqiu. This boss is super easy. I would just make sure that when you're taking it on that you have units that can really take advantage of single target damage. That's why I chose Hyperbloom here and a Hydro unit like Xingqiu, who really excels against single target enemies. He's relatively easy to take out here, and this enemy is pretty old at this point. It's been in tons of Spiral Abyss challenges and resets, so I'm assuming most people know how to deal with him. The main secret to dealing with this enemy is that at this point in the fight, the boss will break apart into 4 small robots. You just target the one with the yellow ring around it, kill that, and it breaks his invulnerability phase. It's pretty straightforward. This time around, I'd say that the Lunar challenges are pretty simple and a lot nicer than the previous reset. For completing this one, I managed to pick up the Empress card for the Lunar Arcanum. This is actually one of my new favorite features of the game. I'm a big guy that's into like collecting stuff, so super cool to see a new card. Act 9, I ended up going with the Samurai here, but I highly advise against going with the Samurai. Basically, you need to defeat the enemies with the exclamation point, caution sign. You get what I'm saying, right? Like, you can see it. You need to defeat these enemies because these are what are called bounties. And these bounties, they're shown on the left. You need to defeat 3 bounties. And for the Samurai challenge, you have to kill 3 bounties. But there's one that's a lot easier if and only if you have a healer. If you have a healer, you can pick the Rift Hound challenge where you only need to defeat 2 of them. The Samurai really like to move around a lot, and you'll miss out on a lot of damage just because of their mobility alone. And on top of that, you have to kill 3 of them. While the Rift Hounds move around a little bit, they still don't dash around like Samurai, so you'll struggle less. Just something to keep in mind. I chose a throwaway Nouvelette team here, and Nouvelette was what enabled me to clear here, and without him, it would have been pretty rough. Regardless, I still managed to clear these guys pretty easily. And as I was saying, guys, earlier, the final boss, Act 10, Emperor of Fire and Iron spawns in with a pretty hefty pyro shield. And in order to break that shield, you really need Hydro here. So saving that Hydro unit, like I was referring to earlier, will really help you. And I ended up saving Farina here. But I also ended up getting Xingqiu back from one of the mystery cache. It was a free mystery cache. Opened it, and I got a unit back at full vigor. It just happened to be Xingqiu. Pretty decent RNG for this run, but I ended up using him here to get the clear. So I took advantage of that. Either way, I would have just replaced Xingqiu with an Electro unit most likely if I didn't get that card. This is really the only check for this boss, right? As long as you have that Hydro application, it should be really easy to take him down within that time limit. Anyways, guys, that's basically gonna do it for this video. And if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, you know, all that stuff. It's greatly appreciated and helps me out immensely with growing the channel. And without further ado, I'm gonna be ending off the video here, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!